We're in the business of blowing minds here on this channel, and for this video, we're bringing you yet another selection of truly masterful knockouts. Let's get right into it. Here's a wild display of how dangerous it can be to get your kick caught. These guys actually both managed to catch their opponent's kick within seconds of each other, but once this total assassin managed to get his adversary off balance, he used that split-second opening to tremendous effect. The impact here speaks for itself. He landed an atomic bomb of a head kick that sent its target crashing into the ropes before slumping helplessly to the canvas. This one right here was a slugfest in every sense of the word. There was very clearly power on both sides of the equation here, but in the end, the balance was not created equal. And when this fighter finally landed that death blow, the results were instantaneous. It was like a shock current was sent through his opponent's body, and that was all she wrote. We go to the king of the question mark kick next, Globe Feitosa, as he added another instance of the technique to his illustrious highlight reel, landing with a frightening level of accuracy and efficiency. When you're that good at throwing question mark kicks, it gets even harder to spot them when you're their opponent. It doesn't seem fair, right? Well, we're sure the victim here wasn't happy, we'll put it that way. We don't even know where to begin with this one. The setup here might just be the most ridiculous, over-the-top, overblown piece of work we've ever seen. But it worked. And the knockout that followed it actually made the whole thing a genuine work of art. This one could have so easily looked silly in the end, but that's one of the all-time great unique spinning back kicks. Speaking of great setups, how about this bearded gentleman's amazing technique? Watch as he throws a lazy head kick, deliberately misjudging the range so he could get his opponent's guard down. When it happens, the main course is waiting just a half second behind it. It wasn't even an especially hard or fast kick. No, timing was everything on this one. Let's get a mean whipping body shot from the great Roy Jones Jr. next. A powerful but incredibly fast strike that caused one of those delayed reactions from his opponent. You just can't put on a brave face when your midsection gets cracked like this. There's no biting down on the mouthpiece either. If you leave an opening and you're a guy like Roy Jones Jr. who can exploit it, your body's going to make that tough decision for you. And that's exactly what we saw play out here. We've seen fighters get pretty inventive with their spinning back fist setups in the past. Some might intentionally miss on a head kick, or use the jab or a straight before pivoting into the shot. But using a front kick down the middle? Yeah, that's just another level of ingenuity right there. The fighter vaults forward with the kick before immediately spinning into this audaciously thrown spinning back fist. And yeah, it landed perfectly. If you want to have a real conversation about rare KO moments, you gotta open up the discussion to include wrestling. Because when these guys knock their opponents out, more often than not, it's with a huge athletic slam that drives their adversary down to the mat right on their head. Some of these are just plain hard to watch, and some of those impacts really do make you worry. But you really gotta respect the technique on display. A brutal knockout. You know you have real pound-for-pound power when you can make your opponent react like this to one of your punches. And maybe no fighter in boxing history summed up the phrase pound for pound quite like the 8-division champion Manny Pacquiao. Despite fighting in more divisions than anyone, Pac-Man retained his power no matter where he went. And when he cracked his opponent on the jaw here, it was like his body decided to enter a dance contest. A uniquely savage KO moment. One perfectly executed spinning back fist comes in next, the type that actually didn't need a shot to follow up. No, the positioning, the speed, and the timing on this were more than enough to see it catch his opponent totally unaware. You gotta have some real nuance to your game to lull your adversary into a false sense of security like that, and for our money, this was as good a spinning back fist as we've ever seen. Clean work. These two fighters found themselves in a bit of a Mexican standoff prior to this fight's conclusion. There were a few seconds there where neither man could be tempted to throw the first blow. One of them even tried a pretty hilarious ducking taunt to get a reaction. It didn't work though. So, instead, he delivered one of the best punches you'll see this year. A thunderous hook that sent his opponent right to the canvas. To extend his highlight reel, This was a 1-2 sent directly from hell. A blistering knockout blow that probably left the referee wondering why he bothered. More spinning back fist wizardry comes in next, as this guy well and truly managed to send his opponent on a ride he'll never forget. The setup here was just awesome. He stepped in with what looked to be a fake jab, and then, when his target took the bait, he immediately spun on the spot and landed a textbook back fist right on his opponent's jaw. A scintillating knockout. Resume. You guys want to see something truly insane? This was the kickboxing clash between the legendary Ernesto Hoost and the 350-pound behemoth Bob Sapp. And while Sapp's career eventually boiled down to a lot of fixed fights and comically bad performances, when he was switched on, he was a total nightmare. Just look at the punches he finished Hoost with here. The sheer force of the impact, every time, Hoost couldn't defend them. That's not a normal human being, not one bit. But let's not focus on the bad stuff when it comes to Ernesto Hoost, because he was also responsible for some of the craziest moments in K1 history. And when he took on Jerome LeBanner, all hell broke loose. And when Hoost landed one, the conveyor belt of KO blows just opened up. It's actually crazy how LeBanner managed to withstand as many as he did. But in the end, he fell to the canvas in defeat. These days, Takeru is as reliable a violence merchant as any kickboxer in the sport. His technical skill is just on another level to most of the guys he fights. And this total onslaught showcased exactly why he's the perfect mix of power and sheer finesse. He's got the technique of a real master and the endurance to keep a pace on these other fighters. If you haven't experienced much of them, we would urge you to take a deeper look. How about a Mike Tyson body shot next? Well, as much as we all know Mike for his ridiculous ability to headhunt, some of his best shots upstairs were set up with massive blows to the midsection. But sometimes the shot to the body is just so perfect, it doesn't require a follow-up. And this early highlight for Iron Mike displays just how lethal he was when you gave him an opening. You can almost feel his opponent's pain with this one. He's grown into a tremendous knockout artist with age. He didn't always have that level of power, but these days, you can rely on shots, folks. This head kick right here is just pure poetry in motion. And if you watch this channel often, you'll know we appreciate a good camera angle, one that gets you right up close and personal to the action. When this kick landed, it initially didn't look like it had done too much damage, more like a grazing shot than a hammer blow. But the victim's systems were already shutting down, and before we knew it, you could see him start to fall, dropping to the canvas for one particularly violent-looking KO. Suffer one knockdown against Mike Tyson, and you might as well just throw in the towel. Because when he does get a sniff of blood, Mike can unleash true hell on his opponents. And after dropping this dude to the canvas, Tyson moved in for the kill with a sequence so gruesome it was barely legal. The first shot buckled the legs, sending his adversary crashing against the ropes. But while he was already on his way to sleep, Tyson nailed him with one more shot, just for good measure. Speaking of sneaking in a few extra shots for good measure, how about this insane finishing sequence that saw the great Francisco Filo slaying the legend Ernesto Hoost in a fashion that was so damn scary, it almost feels wrong to celebrate here. But hey, we're only human, and this knockout was amazing. The barrage of shots had Hoost KO'd long before he hit the canvas, but when he did, he was out cold in the truest sense of the phrase. A career-altering knockout loss. But once again, let's not leave Ernesto Hoost on a loss. We've shown two of his biggest defeats and one of his wins, so let's even the playing field with this pinpoint accurate leg kick KO. You can imagine just how hard this dude kicks just by looking at him. But even the referee knew immediately that this beating had to come to an end eventually. And let's be real, that limb was toast the second Hoost's tree trunk of a leg landed.